Hello, in this math video, I will do a GED math video regarding solving system of two linear equations. So there's a mouthful to learn on this section, so it is a difficult section. The reason why is um, you got to do two things. You got to create the correct equation, which can be difficult, and then you got to solve that system equation using elimination or substitution. So those two things alone are are kind of difficult to do. So um yeah, let's go over the notes. There is quite a few notes we have to go over. So yeah, let's go over the notes. Um First note, this section is a bit harder than the other section. So yeah, don't be don't be stressed out if you can't get it immediately because there is some practice you must do. So you must create two system of linear equation by using the correct variables. That is the hard part. So basically, if you see question one, you have to from these information you have to create two equation, and it has to be correct. If it's not correct, then your whole problem is wrong. And then after creating two system of linear equation, you must solve the unknown variables. Sometimes I'll ask for the x, or sometimes I'll ask for the y, by using substitution or elimination method. That's also a pain. Now there is a supplementary video on how, if you need more practice using finding elimination. Do you use after creating the two system equation, you got to solve by using elimination and substitution. There is a video that tells you all the steps of how to do substitution elimination, but I will go over it and but if you need more practice. So and then third no, so you're probably asking yourself, when would I use substitution or elimination? So let me show you. So you would use substitution when you have one of the variables by itself, or one of the letters by itself. So that's a big clue to do substitution. That's So let me show you an example. Here, let me put it right here. Um, let's say you created two system of linear equation. One in my system linear equation is x plus 6y equals to 25. And then one of my other equation is y equals 2x plus 5. This is a big clue that you would do substitution because if you look at the second equation, you see how y is by itself. If one of the letters by itself, that's how you know you would do substitution. So this is equation one, this is equation two. What you would do for substitution is substitute equation two back into equation one. And I will explain more when we do an actual example, but that's how you know you do substitution. And then how would you know if you would do elimination? So let me write that down. So you would use elimination. And it is a pain to do elimination because you have to be careful. I mean, there's a little bit more algebra, but not too bad. Use elimination when all the letters or all the variables, when all the variables are on one side. Okay, so for example, you have 3x plus 6y equals to 12. And then the other one is 2x minus 4y equals to 25, right? Here's equation one, here's equation two. So as you can see, we have two system of linear equation. You see how the letters are all on one side, and then you have the constant on the right. That's how you know you would do elimination. Okay. Okay, copy this all down. We are going to do we're going to do three examples, and I'm going to clear. If you need to pause the video to write down stuff, go ahead. I'm going to do question one right now. So let me move this up. I can't really see. Okay, so question one says, at a music festival, a total of 930 tickets were sold for two different concerts. The number of VIP tickets sold was twice as many as the number of standard tickets. How many standard tickets were sold? So you know what, we did a video on how to create equations, right? How to create an equation. So you got to label your variables. So what are we dealing with? We are dealing with two things. We are dealing with tickets, but we are dealing with two types of tickets, the VIP tickets and the standard tickets, right? So we can create two variables. Now you can use any letters you like. Um, I'm just going to do X and Y for right now, but you could do A, B, C, X, Y, Z, right? And I'm going to use X, and I'm going to say X represents the number of standard tickets. Right? And then I'm going to use Y, and Y is going to be the number of VIP tickets. Okay. So yeah, you could use any letters you like. I just like X and Y. So X is the number of season tickets sold, and then Y is the number of VIP tickets sold. Now the hard part. We got to come up with two equations, two linear equations, um, from the information they give us. So that is a difficult part. So we got to take one sentence at a time and somehow create the equation. So let's look at the first sentence. At a music festival, a total of 930 tickets were sold. Stop right there. So can you come up with an equation just on this information? Yes, at a music festival, a total of 930 tickets were sold. So what they're saying is a combination of standard tickets and VIP tickets are going to equal to 930 tickets. So how do I create an equation? Well, we said X is standard, so the combination of standard, so X plus Y equals to 930. Okay, so there is a lot, you're going to need a little practice on this because it does take some time to get used to. Um, I mean, I am a math tutor and I know, like, I sometimes do have trouble creating an equation, but that's perfectly normal. So yeah. Now let's look at the second equation. The number of VIP tickets sold was twice as many as the number of standard tickets. Okay, that's a bit confusing, but we can come up with an equation based on this sentence. How would I create my equation? The number of VIP tickets. So what is VIP? Y. So we can say Y equals the number of VIP tickets sold was twice as many as the number of standard tickets. So how can I, that's like saying two times X, right? Two times X, or because X is the standard tickets. So yeah, that is my second equation. So it might take a little bit of time to get used to because it is a strange concept, right? Creating two system equation using X and Y, yeah. Okay, so we create our two system equation. I'll call this equation one and equation two. What are they asking? They're asking you, look at the end of the sentence, it says how many standard tickets are sold. So standard tickets is X, right? So what we're trying to do is solve for X, the amount of standard tickets, right? We don't care about Y. Forget about Y, it's the X value. So we got that's good. That's one thing you need to know. Figure out what you're solving. Answer Y, right? And then you got to figure out, I'm going to solve this. Should I use substitution or elimination, right? That's like the next part you need to ask yourself. Well, I noticed that one of my equation has a letter by itself, y equals 2x. So that's how I know I'm going to do substitution. So I'm not going to do elimination because I have one of the letters by itself. And yeah, I'm going to do substitution. So how am I going to do this? Here's equation one. Equation one is x plus y equals 930. Here's equation two, y equals 2x. I'm going to substitute equation two back into equation one, if that makes sense. I know that sounds strange. What do you mean two to one? Well, I'll show you. Here's equation two. So imagine this, plug in this equation back into equation one. So what that means is we are going to use equation one, but we're going to replace y with 2x, if that makes sense. So it's going to be x plus, and then I'm going to replace this y with equation 2, or 2x, right? Equals to 930. Okay, that's much better now because now you can simplify this. What's 1x plus 2x? 3x equals to 930, and then divide this by 3. And I get x equals to 310. We do not have to solve for y, right? Y is fine. We don't need to know the number of VIP tickets. They only want the standard tickets, which we found out is 310 standard tickets that were sold. Okay, so that is letter B. Okay, so let me recap. So I first labeled my variables. We said X is standard tickets and Y is VIP tickets. Then we gotta, from the sentence of this, we gotta create two equations. The first one came from the first sentence, x plus y equals 930. And then the second equation was the sentence where VIP tickets were sold. And that's how I got y equals 2x. Then I gotta ask myself, am I solving for x, or am I solving for x with standard tickets, or am I solving for y, the VIP tickets? We're solving for x because it says how many standard tickets are sold. Okay. Then what I did was I got to ask myself, should I use substitution or elimination? Because one of my equation has the letter by itself, I'm going to do substitution, and I'm going to substitute equation two back into equation one. And when I did the algebra, I get 310. Okay, that's it. So it does take a little bit time and just keep on practicing. But yeah, if you need a little bit of refresher on how to do substitution or elimination method, there is a supplementary video on that. I'm going to move on to question two. Okay, the question two says the sum of two numbers is 13. The large number is 4 more than twice the smaller number. Find the two numbers. So a lot's going on. I mean, it may be two sentence, like three sentence, but it's a lot that's going on. So the first step is I'm going to label my variables. So what are we dealing with? We are dealing with two numbers. One is a large number and the other one is a smaller number. So you can use any letters you like. I'm going to use X, and I'm going to say X represents the smaller number. Okay. And then I'm going to use Y, and Y is going to represent the larger number. Okay. Now, we're going to have to come up with two equations based on the three sentence. So let's look at the first equation. The sum of these two unknown number is 13. So that's a big clue. I can create an equation. And I'm going to say, so they're saying that the sum of the smaller and the larger number is 13. So I'm going to say that's the same thing as an X plus Y equals 13. Okay. Look at the second equation. The larger number is 4 more than twice the smaller number. Wow, that's strange. The larger number, so what is our larger number? Y. So we could say Y equals is 4 more than twice the number of the smaller number. So that's the same thing as 2 times the smaller number, or 2x plus 4, right? Yes. Okay, that was a little bit difficult, but you got to figure that out. Okay, now you got to, so here's our two equation, x plus y equals 13 and y equals 2x plus 4. Then you got to ask yourself, are they asking for x or y, or are they asking for both? The last sentence says, find the two numbers. Our two numbers are x and y. So we got to figure out x and y, unfortunately. Okay, so we're going to find both x and y. So now you got to do is ask yourself, should I do, how am I going to solve this? Am I going to do substitution or elimination? Well, one of the letters is by itself, so that's how I know I'm going to do substitution. And I'm going to substitute equation 2 back into equation 1. So let's do that. How do I do that? How do I do 2 to 1? So imagine this, putting that back into this entire equation. So we're going to use equation 1, but we're going to replace this y with equation 2, or 2x plus 4, right? That equals 13. So let's clean this up. Maybe we can solve for x. So what's 1x plus 2x? That's 3x plus 4 equals 13. And then I'm going to subtract 4. So I get 3x equals, what is 13 minus 4? That is positive 9. And then it's all for x, so we'll divide by 3. So I get 3. Now let go ahead, because we need to find both. Let's solve for y. So I'm going to plug in this to the second one. So it's going to be y equals 2 times 3 plus 4. So 2 times 3 is 6 plus 4. And then 6 plus 4 is 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so my y is 10, my x is 3. We want both, so that is 3 and 10, so that is letter B. Okay, going to move on to the last one. Question 3. So question 3 says, a fruit vendor sells apples for $1.50 each and bananas for $2 each. If the total sales from selling 25 fruits amount to $42.50, how many apples and how many bananas did the vendor sell? So they're asking for two things, apples and bananas. So first step is let's create our variables. So instead of X and Y, maybe I'll do A and B, right? I could do A for apples, and then I could do B for bananas. Okay, so A for apples and B for bananas. Now the hard part is we've got to create two systemic equation or two equation. So let's take one sentence at a time. So a fruit vendor sells apples for $1.50 each and bananas for $2. So that could be expressed as 150A plus 2B, right? $2 for bananas, $1.50 for apples. And what am I gonna set that equal to? Well, should I set it equal to 25 or 42? What do you think? Well, it's the total cost, so it's gonna be 42.50. I'm not gonna set it equal to 25 because that's the amount of total apples and bananas combined, not the total cost, right? Now, if you look at the second equation, that's how we're gonna create our second equation. If the total sales from selling 25 fruits, so how do that's the difficult part. So what they're saying is if you combine the apples and bananas, that equals to a total of 25 fruits. That doesn't mean that's how much that's the revenue. It just says the amount of apples and bananas equals to 25. So that means apples and bananas equals to 25. Okay, so that is that is tricky. There's yeah, there this is a difficult section. This is a very difficult this is a difficult section, even as a math tutor. It can be difficult because you got to make sure you have the correct equation. If you don't, your whole problem is wrong. Okay, so what it now the next step is what are they asking? They're asking for how many apples and bananas. So we got to find both apples and bananas. Okay, then what we got to do is figure out what method should we solve. Should we do elimination or substitution? Well, none of the letters are by itself, so I can forget about substitution. If you look at the left side, all the letters are aligned on the left, and then you have the consonant on the right. So that's how I know I'm going to do elimination. Okay, I have never done elimination method with you, but it's a bit strange. Um, so how we do elimination, so you got to figure out what letter you want to get rid of. There's no wrong answer. If you want to get rid of the A, that's fine. If you want to get rid of the B, that's perfectly fine. You can't get this wrong. But I'm going to get rid of the B. I think it's much easier. So this is how you get rid of the B. So over here, look at the B. Look at it vertically, not horizontally. So you have a 2B here and a 1B. How do I get rid of this B? Well, you have to make one positive 2B and the other one negative 2B. You kind of have to think of a common denominator, and then you just make one positive and the other one negative. Okay, so the reason why you do this is because when you add them up vertically, what is 2b, negative 2b? It zeroes out as zero, right? So if I have to make one positive 2b and the other one negative 2b, this is fine. 2b is that's perfect. That's what I want. I gotta make this bottom b into a negative 2b. So how do I do that? I'm gonna multiply. Here's equation one, here's equation two. I'm gonna multiply the entire second equation by negative two. And when I say every the entire second equation, I mean everything. So I haven't done anything with equation one, so I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to rewrite it as 150A plus 2B equals to 4250, right? I'm going to distribute this negative 2 because this is the only way I'm going to make this b into a negative 2b. So distribute everything. So negative 2 times a is negative 2a. Negative 2 times b is negative 2b. And then don't forget the right side. Everybody always forgets this. What's negative 2 times 50? I mean, negative 2 times 25. Um, I think it's negative 50. My calculator. Let me get my phone calculator. Okay, I got my phone calculator. So, um, 25 times negative 2, I think that's negative 15. Yes, I can't believe simple algebra. So negative 50, and then I'm going to put a horizontal line and then add them up vertically. So you may need to calculate for this part. What is 150 minus 2? So if you need a calculator, you can. You can use calculator on the exam. So 150 minus 2 is negative 0.5, or yeah, negative 0.5a. The b's cancels. And then what's 42? 50 minus 50, that's negative 7.5. And then solve for a. So how do I solve for a? I have to get rid of this negative 0.5 by dividing both sides by negative 0.5. So I get a equals 7.5 divided by 0.5. That's 15. Exactly 15. So you have 15 apples. Now we want to find both because we found A, which is 15 apples. We got to find B. So how do I find B? This is the typical part. You got to you can put you're gonna have to substitute it back into your original equation. So you can substitute your A value back into equation one, and it has to be original. I don't think you do not put it in this equation, right? This is not original. Or you could also put it here. This is also original with before distributing this negative two, right? So I'm going to use this one. I think this is much easier. So I'm going to use A plus B equals 25, and I'm going to replace my A with 15. So it's 15, whoops, 15 plus B equals to 25. And then I'm going to solve for B by subtracting 15. So what is 25 minus 15? It is 10. So you have 10 bananas. You have 10 bananas and 15 apples. So oh, looks like it's A, right? 15 apples and 10 bananas. Okay, so this was a little bit trickier because we had to do elimination. Now, if you need more practice with knowing how to do substitution or the elimination method, there is a video on the supplementary video of this course on the system of equation method. Okay. Okay, let me check my work. Yeah, 15 apples and 10 bananas. Perfect. Okay, perfect score. So I'm going to stop here. Okay. Okay, I'll let you go. Thank you.